She thought she could sneak back home at 4 a.m. with smeared lipstick and shaky excuses. But instead, she walked straight into the trap I'd been quietly building for weeks. Everyone believed I was the naive husband who never noticed a thing. But that morning, I finally showed them all exactly how wrong they were. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. It helps the channel more than you know. That I'll never forget the quiet of that night. It was one of those rare early mornings when the world feels frozen, like even the air is holding its breath. I'd been sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out, trying to rehearse a presentation I had in just a few hours. The clock glowed 3:58 when my phone buzzed. Text from Claire, my wife, or at least the woman who was still legally carrying that title. Something came up. Relax. I'll explain. No punctuation. No careful wording. A message she would never send unless she was rushing or panicked. And certainly not at 4 in the morning. She was supposed to be at her sister's place across town. Girls' night. Movies, wine, laughter. A clean, predictable alibi she'd used before. But the second I read those words, a dull coldness washed over me. Not shock. Not confusion. Just confirmation. Like hearing the final click in a lock you already knew was closed. That I stood up, walked to the window, and looked at the driveway bathed in the street lamp's glow. Her car sat right there, exactly where it had been all night. So much for a girl's night across town. My fingers hovered over my phone for a moment. Then I typed something simple, something sharp, something that hit harder than any accusation could. No need to explain. Stay with him. You're single now. I sent it. No hesitation. No anger. Just clarity. A kind of clarity I hadn't felt in months. The call started instantly. Buzz. 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 I silenced the phone and placed it face down on the table. I brewed a cup of coffee and sat back down as if nothing had happened. If anything, I felt lighter. Freer. 20 minutes later, tires screeched in my driveway. The doorbell slammed over and over, each ring more frantic than the last. I didn't rush. I didn't call out. I didn't even raise my voice. I let her panic sit, let it fill the neighborhood. If she wanted a dramatic scene, fine. She'd get one. That when I finally walked to the door and looked through the peephole, I saw Claire, still wearing the tight red dress she'd claimed was comfortable enough for a casual night with my sister. Her hair was tangled, makeup running in streaks, eyes wild. She looked like someone who'd just watched her entire world collapse in real time. Honey, please, open the door, she begged. I can explain. I unlatched the lock but kept the chain on, opening it just a few inches, just enough to see her clearly, but not enough for her to step inside. It's 4:30 in the morning, I said quietly. Amazing how fast you can get home when you think you're losing something. She sucked in a shaky breath. You don't understand. There was an emergency. Let me guess, I replied. With a friend? Or was it a coworker this time? Her eyes darted sideways, left, right, searching for a lie that would fit the moment. But she'd already given herself away. Not tonight, weeks ago, when she started taking extra shifts, when her phone stayed face down, when she suddenly cared about new clothes and weekend errands that required full makeup and perfume. Please, she whispered. Let me explain inside. No, I said. Whatever story you've rehearsed, you can tell it right here. The porch light flickered above us. The sky was still dark, but a few neighbors' windows glowed softly. Good. Let them see. Let them hear. Let them witness the truth she'd tried so hard to bury under lies and late nights. She wiped her face with trembling fingers. Okay, I was with Kelly. She was having a panic attack. Kelly moved to Denver last year, I said flatly. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked like she was drowning and grabbing at air. I meant, Shannon. Shannon works night shifts, I said. You forgot that. Her whole posture changed then. The fight drained out of her shoulders. Her eyes softened, not in a tender way, but in a defeated, cornered way. Like she finally understood she was playing chess with someone who'd already seen the entire board. That I leaned slightly closer to the gap in the door. "So I'll ask you once," I said. "Where were you?" Her voice cracked. "I can't say it." "Then this conversation is over." I started to close the door, but she pressed her hand against it, desperation rising like a tide. "No. Please," she begged. "If I tell you the truth, you'll never forgive me." "Then don't tell me," I said. "You can drive back to wherever you came from tonight." Her breath hitched. Her shoulders shook. "And finally," she whispered, "I was with someone." The words hung between us like smoke. Heavy, undeniable, poisonous. And in that moment, under the dim porch light, watching her crumble, I felt absolutely nothing. Not anger. Not heartbreak. Just confirmation and the quiet beginnings of a plan. Her confession didn't hit me like a punch. It landed exactly the way I expected. Soft, predictable, almost boring. She stood there on the porch, mascara streaked, hair tangled, shivering in that red dress she'd worn to impress someone who wasn't her husband. I let the silence stretch until she couldn't take it anymore. "It was one time," she whispered, voice trembling. "Tonight was the first time." "How long have you been seeing him?" I asked. She looked away like the question itself burned. "6 weeks," she finally muttered. "6 weeks," I repeated, nodding slowly. "6 weeks of what? Coffee dates, secret texting, or sneaking around behind my back?" She winced. "It wasn't like that." It was exactly like that. The porch was cold, the wind carrying that early morning stillness that makes everything sharper, clearer. She hugged her arms around herself, like she could hide from what she'd done. For years, I'd thought her silence was gentleness. Turns out, it was cowardice. "Who is he?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "It does to me." She swallowed, barely audible. "His name is Brandon." I actually laughed, and it startled her. "Brandon Carter?" I said. "Accounting Brandon? The guy who thinks cologne counts as a personality." She flinched. "Please don't do this." "Do what?" "Be honest." My voice stayed calm, but something inside me clicked into place, a cold, deliberate focus. "You cheated on me with Brandon Carter." "Incredible." She reached for the door frame like her knees might give out. "I wasn't thinking clearly." "You weren't thinking clearly for a month and a half." I asked. "That's a lot of days to not think clearly." She wiped her face again, streaking the mascara even more. "I'm sorry." Sorry doesn't erase choices. The porch light flickered again, illuminating the fear building in her eyes. And that's when I realized something. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of what losing me would cost her. I stepped away from the door. "I've got an appointment with my lawyer at 9. I need sleep." Her eyes widened. "Your lawyer?" "You already." "I called him after your text," I said. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. She stared at me like the ground had shifted beneath her. "You called a lawyer before talking to me?" "You texted me at 4 in the morning with a lie." "I made my decision then." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She looked like a child caught stealing. But worse, she looked embarrassed. "Not for cheating. For getting caught." "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to counseling. We can talk. We can—" "Talk about what?" I asked. "About how you spent the evening with your sister, who hasn't seen you in 3 weeks. About how your car magically stayed in the driveway all night while you were miles away. About how you lied 3 times before you told the truth." Her face crumbled. "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a series of decisions." She opened her mouth to argue just as her phone started ringing. She looked at the screen and froze. Then she whispered, "My mom." "Interesting," I said. "She's calling you at 5 in the morning?" She must have. She must have seen the texts I sent her. "So now you're dragging your family into this?" She didn't answer. Instead, the phone buzzed again and again, until finally she answered with a trembling, "Mom, please." I heard her mother's voice through the receiver, sharp, shocked, horrified. "What do you mean he's filing for divorce?" I held out my hand. "Speaker." She hesitated, then slowly pressed the button. Her mother's voice filled the quiet porch. "Sarah, what in God's name happened? Why is he saying you cheated?" "Mom, please don't." I cut her off. "Margaret, she didn't tell you the important part. She's been seeing a coworker for 6 weeks." The silence on the other end was thick, heavy. Then, "Sarah, Marie, Parker, is that true?" Sarah broke. Completely. She sank onto the porch step, sobbing into her hands. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Margaret inhaled sharply. You broke your marriage. You broke your vows. I cannot protect you from this." Sarah sobbed harder. For a moment, I actually felt a flicker of pity. But pity is not the same as forgiveness. Margaret sighed on the other line. "You did this to yourself, and you need to go home. Now." When the call ended, Sarah looked up at me with swollen eyes and a ruined expression. "Everyone is going to hate me," she whispered. "Probably," I said. "Actions have consequences." She pushed herself to her feet. "Please, can I just come inside and talk?" "There's nothing left to talk about," I said. "Pack a bag. Your parents are picking you up." Just then, 3 cars turned into the driveway, headlights flooding the porch. Her parents, her sister, her uncle, an entire family summoned by her choices. They didn't wait for her to knock. They walked straight up to the door like a tribunal. "We need to talk," her uncle said. "Actually," I replied, "I don't." But I stepped aside, letting them in anyway. 5 minutes. That was all I could give them. 5 minutes to hear how they'd try to convince me that 6 weeks of betrayal was just a mistake. As they filed into the living room, Sarah trailing behind like a shadow, I felt the calm settle over me again. The same cold stillness I'd felt when I sent that text. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was simply done. And that, more than anything, terrified her. They gathered in my living room like a panel of reluctant judges. Her mother pale with shame, her father tight-jawed and furious, her sister glaring at her with open disgust, her uncle trying far too hard to look wise. Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, like someone awaiting sentencing. I remained standing. I wanted the height, the distance, the control. Her uncle Robert cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a sermon. "Marriages go through storms," he began. "This doesn't have to be the end." "Robert," I said, "you cheated on both of your ex-wives. You don't get to give advice today." Her father, usually a quiet man, exhaled sharply through his nose. He didn't defend his brother. Margaret shook her head at Robert, then looked at me. "We just want you to consider forgiveness." "I forgave her already," I said. "Forgiveness doesn't mean I have to stay." Her sister stepped forward. "He's right. Sarah, I told you the second you called me. This is on you. Completely on you." Sarah hung her head, voice shaking. "I know." "Do you?" Her sister shot back. "Because you defended that guy. You actually defended him in front of your husband." Sarah's face went white. Even her father stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "Is that true?" he asked. She choked on her own breath. I didn't mean, but you did," I said. And that told me everything I needed to know. Her uncle tried again. "Let's calm down. Take a breath." "I'm calm, Robert," I said. "I've been calm all morning." "She's the one who's been spiraling since 4. Her mother leaned forward. "Please. 8 years is a long time to throw away." "She threw it away," I said. "I'm just acknowledging reality." The room fell silent for a moment. Heavy, honest, unavoidable. Her father finally spoke. "What do you plan to do?" "Divorce," I answered plainly. "I already have a meeting set. She can stay with you until she gets her things in order." Sarah jolted upright. "No, no, please, don't do this. You had 6 weeks to think about this outcome," I said. "You chose someone else every single day." She broke completely then, ugly crying, hands shaking, voice cracking. "I'll go to therapy. I'll do anything. Please, please don't end us." "You ended us when you walked into someone else's arms," I said. Her father closed his eyes, disappointed in a way I don't think she'd ever seen before. Her mother wiped tears but didn't argue again. Her sister folded her arms and looked away like she couldn't stand to see the wreckage. Her uncle clapped his hands together weakly. All right, emotions are high. Let's not make any rash decisions. This isn't rash, I said. It's overdue. Sarah stood slowly, trembling. Can I at least pack clothes? Yes, I said. Take what you need. As she went upstairs, her mother approached me with weary eyes. I don't blame you, she whispered. I blame her. She knew better. You raised her well, I said. She just didn't care enough to act like it. Will you be okay? She asked. Yes, I said, and I meant it. 20 minutes later, Sarah came downstairs with a small suitcase. Her father took it from her without looking at her. Her sister didn't say goodbye. They guided her out like someone they no longer recognized. When the door closed and their cars disappeared down the street, the silence in the house wasn't painful. It was peaceful. 3 months passed. The divorce finalized cleanly. She didn't contest anything. Her lawyer must have warned her she'd lose. I kept the house, the savings, the retirement accounts. She left with exactly what she'd brought into the marriage. Almost nothing. Word at her job spread fast after her affair partner got fired for misconduct. She'd stayed, barely tolerated, quietly avoided. Brandon had moved on to someone else within weeks. She'd texted me once, saying she was in therapy, that she wanted to become a better person. I deleted the message unread. The house transformed over time. New furniture, new colors, new life. No more tension, no more doubts, no more pretending everything was fine. I started hiking on weekends, cooking real meals, reconnecting with friends she'd never liked. I slept better, worked better, lived better. I wasn't rebuilding. I was finally living in a home that felt like mine. One evening, just as the sun dipped low, Margaret called. I hope I'm not intruding, she said. Not at all, I told her. What's going on? I wanted to say, you handled everything with grace. More grace than she deserved. She paused, voice tight. I wish she'd chosen differently. So do I said. But I'm better now. Good, she whispered. You deserve to be. After we hung up, I stepped outside onto my patio, watching the quiet street, the warm light from my windows, the steady life I'd built from the ashes of a broken one. Peace, calm, stability, happiness. All of it earned the moment I sent the simplest, coldest, truest message of my life. No need to explain. Stay with him. You're single now. And for the first time in years, I knew I'd made the right decision. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. Your support means the world.